just wanted to check in to see, did you do your homework from last session?
I did,
Okay.
and
So do you want to share that?
I do. So I wrote in my notes, therapy homework. Think about him. I put the
We'll
name,
just say
but
him. We won't say
him,
his name.
right?
Right. Because we wanted to really kind of delve into what that relationship was like for you and
Yes.
how you have kind of changed and what you've learned about yourself and relationships since that relationship has ended.
Right.
So we'll just say him, and we both
Yes.
know who he is.
Right.
Okay.
Okay. Right.
Okay.
Okay. So you gave me that on Wednesday. Thursday, October 26th, the next day at 4:04 a.m. I woke up, went to the bathroom before I even got a chance to lay back down. God was answering what the homework was for me to do.
Okay.
Just and so I just started typing in my phone, just type in what he was saying, right?
Wow.
So I'm gonna read what he said. He said, "You say you have strong faith, yet you aren't 100% confident I could put someone in your life that will surpass what you had with him. You've seen what I can do, but yet you still question what I can do. Your husband will be your ultimate testimony because I will get the glory. Allow allow me to give you someone who will love you right the first time, not someone I had to heal you from to send you back to.
Wow.
You said on camera one of the ways you know it's me speaking to you is if it's something that you don't want to hear. I know you don't want to hear that, but don't go back to your old ways questioning what I'm doing for you just because you don't like it in the moment. Continue to trust me. Know that I got you. Watch my work. I've given you glimpses of your future with your husband, and though you don't know who he is, I've shown you your happiness, your fullness, and most importantly, I've shown you my love and what I will do for you for those who love me. Choose to trust what I show you and not stand on what makes you comfortable in that broken season. You
Mm.
don't need this easy way out. You need me."
Wow.
Right. Because when he said, you said on camera, you know it's me speaking to you if it's something you don't want to hear. And I
And
know
you absolutely said that in
I
our last
did say
session.
that. And he was saying that because after he said the first portion, I was like, is that I don't know, is that you or is that me tripping? And he said that right before I even got to finish that thought. He came with that, and I'm like, okay,
Wow.
okay, I
That
hear
is
you.
something.
Yeah, yeah,
Goodness. So, how did
right.
you feel in that moment as you're hearing all of this? What's going on in your mind?
So in the beginning, when he was saying that, that I questioned what he can do and all this stuff, I was thinking like, wow, that kind of is true. Like I say that I have all this faith, but now I'm still questioning like of all the love and everything that we experienced together, will I have that again? And he's saying like, are you not, you saying you have that faith in me, that trust,
Right.
why are you doubting that I can surpass what you thought was even love then? You know what I mean? And I was
Interesting.
doubting that, but he's like, hello, like you're saying you have this faith, but you're not showing that you have this faith.
Right.
And I did start doubting, like, am I bugging? And then he came right back before I even got to finish my thought. He came back with, you literally said on camera, if it's something that you
Wow.
can't shake or you don't want to hear, it's probably God.
And
And that's exactly what I said the
that is
last video.
exactly, absolutely
The
what he
last
said.
video just said it.
Yes, you
So
did. Oh, wow.
yeah, definitely not necessarily. It's not even. I don't know if it's not what I wanted to. It's not what I wanted to hear because that's what he told me. It's not what I wanted to
Yeah.
hear, but I needed to hear that.
Mm-hmm.
I needed to hear that for sure. And because he showed like I get these random like glimpses of my future, not just and with my husband or my future with kids, anything like that. Just things in the future where I would be in like ministry or just me as a person, and
Really?
yeah, like just randomly just get these glimpses. And he's shown me, like he said, he's shown me glimpses of my future with my husband, even though like you said, I don't know what he looks like or anything, but the happiness that I have, the peace, the
So you
fullness.
don't see the person.
I don't see the
but you know
person,
he's
but
there.
I know how I'm feeling in that. I know I'm thanking God for giving me someone that, you know, I have this with and all that. So I've seen it multiple times. Multiple
Wow.
times. I've written in my notes things that, you know, I know that my husband's gonna have. So he's like, you I'm showing you, and for
Mm-hmm.
some reason you're wanting to stay comfortable. You're wanting to stay comfortable in what you know. I'm trying to take you out of your comfort zone and
Yeah.
what you think you know, what you think is love. I'm love. That's what he's trying. Like, I'm love, and you have to trust me and know that I will give you what you want, the desires of your heart. That's what he says. So,
And so you just mentioned ministry.
mm-hmm.
Is that something that you had considered doing before, or is this something that just came to mind and you're like, oh, this is what I'm supposed to do?
So I've had thoughts of doing ministry.
Okay.
Kind of coming and going. But then when I started to realize like my work life and my regular life worldly stuff
Mm-hmm.
distracts me from what I really want to be doing is getting to know God deeper and more and doing stuff that is going to be beneficial
Mm-hmm.
outside of this. I get distracted from work stuff. So I have had that thought of like if I could just be full time in ministry and helping people and you know giving them something that is way past just what we need on this earth that is
Right.
coming gonna be you know come to an end. That's what I would like to do, and I think that eventually God will probably take me out of the worldly, you know, work and stuff like that, and I will be doing ministry.
And I was just going to ask you, what do you think would need to happen before you would be ready to do that?
If God tells me that, I have a feeling it's going to be really quick. Like God's just going to be like, all right, your time's up at your job, quit. No backup, no nothing, because that's how He works, and because He wants me to move in faith, so that would probably be what it looks like. Like, all right, time's up.
And
You know,
in a way, is what you're doing now with your videos, is that a way of doing some of your testimony and ministry work by sharing the word of God
I think so.
to other
Yes.
people?
Yeah. Well, I know so
Yeah.
because I before doing the videos, I was doing one on one with like friends or, you know, family, just telling them my testimony. And
Mm-hmm.
I was okay with that. But again, that was making me comfortable. And God
Yeah.
was like, no, you need to branch out of your comfort zone. And He wanted me to do YouTube. And I'm like, ooh, like, are you sure? Like, I
And
don't.
here you are
And here I am
doing that.
doing YouTube. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And I would, this would not have been my route because I don't, not that I don't want to say I don't care about YouTube because I watch YouTube all the time. It's
Mm-hmm.
just I wouldn't have put myself in front of a camera to tell people. So I would rather that
Interesting.
one on one talking, you know, which is why I chose this route instead of just blabbing on a camera myself because I
Yeah.
would have been all over the place.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
easier for me to talk one on one about what I've been through or what, you know, pain or anything like that, whatever it is, it's easier
Yeah.
to do that one on one than to try to
Just say it
just say it
to
with
the
no
camera.
dialogue. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's hard for me. So,
Yeah.
but I made it work. So, you know, that's part, I think that's definitely part of it.
And I think when you look at like how far reaching YouTube is, I mean, all across the world,
Right.
and how your word can spread that quickly, you know. So, and especially for people, who are in maybe a younger age group, who are always on social media and internet and all of that, and once they have access to that,
Yeah.
it may open a lot of people's minds to, you know, what you're trying to share.
I hope so. You know, like I don't, to me, it's like, I don't care about the numbers. If only one person
Yeah.
sees each of my videos, but that one person is being saved and helped and delivered
Mm-hmm.
from things that I'm saying, cool. I'm good with that. You know what I
Right.
mean? I don't need
That's
a
what it's
thousand
about.
because if it's a whole bunch of people, but nobody's really soaking in what I'm
Yeah.
saying, it's pointless.
Right. and it's definitely about that trickle down effect. You know, one person takes that information and it helps them, and then that'll end up, you know, helping the next person, and then they'll
Right.
tell someone about it, and then that helps them, and that's the way to get the word out
Right.
there. And you're planting that seed, but you're also providing, you know, that information to them, because, you know, a lot of people maybe don't go to church,
Right.
and they can find their way through their, you know, faith and their traveling in their journey by watching one of your videos to see, oh wow, look what she's gone through, and look at where she is now, and that may be the inspiration they need, instead of someone just saying, oh, you should go to church on Sunday.
Right.
You
Right.
know. So I think what you're doing is great.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
And you seem natural at it.
Yeah. Well, that's because I'm talking to you, because if I was just talking to the camera, I would be all over the place. But it's easier talking to you, and I just act like the camera's just, you know, not there. You know what I mean? It's easier that way.
Yeah. So we had talked about kind of delving a little bit into that long relationship that you were in, which I'm sure a lot of people can relate to, being in those types of tumultuous relationships,
Mhm.
and why a person chooses to stay, and how hard it can be to leave, and then trusting in your walk with God. So do you want to talk about that today?
Yeah, we could get into that. Yeah.
So we'll start wherever you feel comfortable starting, and we'll go from there.
I got with him in a broken place already. Not because of him, obviously, but I was already every which way. I didn't know who I was. Granted, I was still young, but I don't even think I was in a direction of trying to figure out who I was. I was just kind of trying to soak in what love I could. And
in whatever way you could find it.
Pretty much, yeah. So I was 14 when I met him, and I felt like we just connected so easily. Um, it was just, to me, it was just easy. I don't think it started getting really difficult until we moved in together. Prior to that, we had some struggles with, like, you know, petty infidelity, and, you know, checking each other's phone or Facebook or whatever in and out of relationship. But I think it really started getting heavy when we moved in together.
So can I ask?
Yeah, please.
How old were you when you moved in together, and was the infidelity on one part or both parts?
We moved in. Might have been 2012. So I'm 18, 19?
Okay.
18, 19, because I graduated in 11, I was 17, so it's probably like the next year or so we moved in together. We had already kind of been living together because he was always at his friend's house, and his friend's girlfriend was always there too. So then I just, you know, after graduation, I was just always there as well. So it's kind of like we lived together already. But then when we officially all moved in together in our own apartment is when things kind of got a little rough for us. And the infidelity, like I said, was kind of petty, like just, you know, texting other people. It was more so on his part, because I was crazy about him at first. Like, I always wanted to be talking to him. Now, I don't think it was in like a toxic way at that time. But I think I just really, really liked him, and I think that kind of scared him. Like, he was still like, all right, you know, I like you too, but I'm not trying to be tied down, and that's kind of what I wanted.
Yeah. At such a young age,
But I was wanting it from a broken place, not because that's what I needed at the time.
Yeah.
I wanted it because I felt like that would make me fulfilled, and it wouldn't have.
Yeah.
Even if I got that, it wouldn't have.
Yeah. And those are the things we know now that you obviously didn't know that.
Absolutely not. No.
So you move in, and that's when the relationship kind of changed?
It changed because I feel like he was in a place where So I was the only one working out of the two of us. So it was our portion of the rent plus the other couple's portion. And I was responsible for everything. And that I felt like that took a toll on both of us. Like he felt like less of a man, and I felt like I'm taking care of a grown man. So those emotions together ended up being, it just blew up.
So what was the reason that you were paying the half of the bills and he wasn't?
He didn't have a job, which was a big part of the issue that I had through the years, is because like if you did have a job, you wouldn't work past a month or two. So then it comes right back on me, and it's like, that. So on both ends, it was like, it just was bad. It was bad. We had multiple arguments, cheating, um, physical fights, toxic, just toxic in that house. Toxic. Like it was just, and it's not that it was all on him, because I definitely played my part. So I don't want to make it seem like it was just him, because I could have left, but I didn't want to. I wanted us to work, but I didn't know how that was supposed to play out with how much gunk was going on. You know what I mean? Like I felt like I always saw better of him than he saw of himself. And I've told him that. You know what I mean? So I always felt like that. And even then I did. I'm like, how are you just okay with it all being on me?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and I think to an extent, I think he wasn't, but at the same time, he wasn't motivated enough by himself or me to change it, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I think it was that all those emotions in one, just, it was bad. It was bad.
Okay. How long did you and him stay together for altogether?
I don't even know. We were literally off and on since the beginning of this year, which would make 15 years. I'm 30, so.
So help me and others
Okay.
to understand how when you're 18 and he's not working and you're pulling most of the weight as far as paying the bills and there's issues in the relationship, how or why did you choose to stay in that relationship, do you think?
Potential. I think through the years, that's what it was. Like at first, when we were younger, it was just like, all right, neither one of us know which way's up. We're just kind of, enjoying each other. And then as you start to get older, you're like, okay, things have to start progressing, changing, and I think because at that point I had already gotten so deep into my feelings for him, um, and then my lack of love for myself on top of that, plus me seeing better for him, I was hoping that the love that he had for me, or the love we had for each other, would change how our relationship looked, make him want to go harder because he wants to keep me. And I can't do that. No one can do that. If that person doesn't, it doesn't matter what you see in that person, it does not matter. If they don't want it or see it for themselves, it's not going to happen. It doesn't matter how much love they have for you. If they don't want it, it's not going to happen.
But at the time, you're thinking, I can make this happen.
Oh, yeah.
He's going to change for me. And you have this hope that there's, going to be some change. And
Absolutely.
so you wait for that, and that maybe didn't happen.
Yeah.
Or if it did, it was maybe later on in the relationship.
So the last time we got back together, we hadn't talked for 3 years, and that was the longest through since we were 14. That was the longest we hadn't talked. So for 3 years we didn't talk, and that was because of the situation with Jordan. I don't know if I touched on that at all, but we didn't talk, and we started talking back up again after those 3 years, and it seemed like, at least communication wise, a lot had changed. We were
Okay.
able to open up about past things that had hurt us and frustrated us, or what we needed then, or all
Yeah.
that stuff. We were able to do that, which we weren't able to before, which what made me think, cool, we're getting there. Let's get,
Yeah.
now we can get back together. We can make it work this time.
Right.
And
Thinking at that time, he may have changed and
right,
yeah.
right. But while some things had changed, also some things still didn't. And a big portion of it was really what I needed. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
more than communication. Communication is absolutely necessary, but it's more than that. And
Yeah.
since the communication had changed in such a positive way, I'm like, if that can change, imagine what else, could change
Yeah.
from just being able to communicate.
Yeah.
And it wasn't that, you know, so.
What was the reason you all maybe broke up in the first place when you had your first breakup?
Um, what, when we didn't talk for 3 years, or the actual first
Like the
breakup?
first time, like you broke up.
To be honest, I don't even know. It was probably over something petty.
Okay.
I we were off and on so many times. I have no idea.
Okay.
I don't know.
So then, what happened when you broke up for 3 years and didn't talk for those 3 years?
So those 3 years, I got pregnant. We
Mhm.
weren't together,
Okay.
but I got pregnant, and the baby was not his. Jordan was not his.
Okay.
And I told him and his family and my family that it was. And I knew that it wasn't.
Okay.
So I was living this lie
Okay.
to him, even her actual dad. Like, I didn't tell him a thing, nothing, absolutely nothing. And I didn't tell him because when I had my miscarriage before, he, my ex, was there, even though it wasn't his. He was the only one that was there. The person who, you know, my daughter's dad, whose it was, nowhere.
Hmm.
He did
That must have
even.
been hard.
It was.
Yeah.
We had a big blowout even before that even happened. So just nowhere. And my ex was, and so I was like, I'm not going back down that road with. I'm not even giving him that chance to open that door again. So I just completely bypassed her actual dad and went straight to my ex. So I, worse. I don't want to say worst decision, but it definitely was the biggest mistake that I've made that affected more than just me.
Okay.
It affected me. It affected my ex. It affected my ex's family. It affected her dad, her dad's family, my family, because even my family didn't know.
What was the reason you didn't tell him she wasn't his? That she was.
Um,
She had a different dad.
I think I just wanted us to be a family. Like, I
You and
just,
your ex,
yes.
not your daughter's father.
Yeah, no.
Okay.
Just me and my ex. I wanted us to be a family. I mean, that's really it. I was being completely selfish because
Okay.
that's what I wanted, and I knew the love that he had for me that her dad, her actual dad, didn't. Like, nobody could, in my eyes then, nobody could compare to the love that we had, the time that we had.
Mm-hmm.
And I just made that crazy decision.
So when you and your ex broke up, then you got with your daughter's father.
No, I never. We were never together.
Oh, it was just
Yeah, we were.
a thing.
It was just a thing. We were
Okay,
never
gotcha.
together.
And so, at what point did you then come, to tell the truth about who her real father was?
My daughter was like, I don't know, months old, probably almost a year or
Okay.
two, even. I don't know.
What was the
Um,
reason that you decided to come clean in that?
It was eating at me every single
Okay.
day, every day. Even my ex was in the hospital when she was born, which, to be completely honest, as bad as it sounds, I'm not sure I would change that. And again, I know how bad that probably sounds, but that um because I knew his love for me, and I wouldn't have felt that with
Her father.
her father.
Yeah.
And I needed that at the time because of, everything that was going on. It was my first time. I was nervous and
Yeah.
just everything,
Especially after having already gone through a miscarriage.
Right,
you
right.
wanted somebody there that you knew loved you, was going to support you.
Exactly.
Okay.
So he was there, but it just kept eating up at me, like tearing me apart, and I'm just like, I am literally lying to everyone. And it was so hard. It was so hard. I had to tell my ex, and then of course I had to tell my daughter's dad, which I was like, okay, I know I'm coming super late with this random news, um, but this is what it is. I'll give you a paternity test. I know you're gonna want one because who wouldn't?
Yeah.
If I was in your position, I definitely would. Like,
Yeah.
you're coming random, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
so got that whole, and it was a lot. It was just so much damage that I had created from my selfish decision, um with everything. Like, our relationship, me and her dad's relationship started off so rocky, super rocky. I prayed on many occasions that we would not have that, toxic baby mom, baby dad.
Yeah.
That's so, I don't like that. That's not me. That's not how I want to operate
Yeah.
with my family. Um, and then with my ex, I know he was broken. His family was broke. Like, it was so much, just
I was going to
a
ask,
lot.
how did he take that, and how did her father take that?
My ex took it. Uh, to be honest, he took it better than he could have. A lot, excuse me, a lot better than he could have.
Okay.
He just couldn't understand why I did what I did. Um, and he, after even this time when we were together, we had talked about it, like why I did what I did, and I told him, and he had a better understanding. Um, her dad, I think he was happy once he realized that she was his. Like, he never missed anything.
Yeah.
Got her, on the weekends or whatever, whenever he could, and was being her dad, you know. But for our relationship, like the communication, everything, like we were rocky, like super rocky at first, fighting all the time, just everything, just it was rough.
And I'm sure that was hard for you to have to sit down and then
So
have that
hard.
conversation.
Even after all the conversations were done, I felt like I was so, like, even this past time when me and my ex were together, I had to apologize to his family for lying to them. And I wanted to for the longest time, but they weren't ready for that. And on his birthday, my ex's birthday, which happened to be the day after mine, they were willing to talk to me. And we did. We talked, cried, everything. But I apologized and they accepted. And that was a huge weight lifted off because I felt absolutely awful. And we were not close, but especially his mom, like, I loved his mom, like she was mine. So it was a really, really, really hard season. I was beating myself up for the longest time, just beating myself up because I felt like I've made a lot of crazy decisions in my life, but usually they just end up affecting me, or worst case scenario, my parents too. But this one affected me, my family, my daughter, my ex's family, her dad, and her dad's family. Like it was so much. Like it was hard.
And I know before we've talked about like the idea of forgiveness. What
Mm.
does it mean? And do you think one that they forgave you, and two, have you forgiven yourself?
Um, I think on both ends, they both have forgiven me.
Okay.
Um, and I have forgiven myself. It took a while, like, even after their forgiveness of me, I was still struggling with forgiving myself. Like, even after, there would be nothing going on, and I would still find myself, like, apologizing for that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And they're like, we know, like, we get it. You're
Yeah.
sorry. We accept your. But I felt so just like just going back, like in their position, like how I would have felt if someone put me through that, and it
Yeah.
hurt me more. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I just it took a long time for me to even forgive myself, but I've gotten to that point.
So what helped you to be able to forgive yourself?
I think their forgiveness helped, knowing that they did forgive and they weren't holding it over my head or every chance they got throwing it in my face.
Mm-hmm.
So that definitely helped, and I think me just realizing that even though that mistake affected a whole lot of people
Mm-hmm.
more than just me, it was still a mistake. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Everybody makes them. And at least I came to the point of putting truth to it. You know what I mean? Not just
Yeah.
living that lie forever. You know what I mean? So
Do you feel like you broke any of their trust having done that?
I'm sure. I'm sure. I mean that would be normal
Mm-hmm.
for them to be like, yeah, I don't know, because that would absolutely be normal.
So how, I guess after you said that, as hard as that was, I'm sure you felt some form of like relief,
I did.
because like, whew, that had to be, like you said, it was eating at you all this time, and having to say something and then getting that off your chest, I'm sure was such a relief.
It was. It was a
Yeah.
relief and painful at the same time.
Yeah, I
Like,
bet.
it definitely mixed emotions for sure.
Yeah. So thinking back to who you were at that time,
Mm-hmm.
what could you say to yourself?
There's so many things coming to mind. I'm trying to um really, you just need to take time and learn who you are, learn to love
Mm-hmm.
yourself. Stop
Yeah.
trying to find love and everybody else. Love yourself.
Yeah.
Like that, because I feel like so many of the stupid decisions I've made was because I was just trying to find love in other people instead of myself. And I didn't respect myself, so I'm just doing whatever it is I'm doing, not considering anything, just
Yeah.
what's
Mm-hmm.
gonna fulfill me in that moment, and not considering what it's gonna do to somebody else.
Yeah.
So for sure, just feel it, pouring into myself first
Yeah.
before trying to spread myself thin when there's barely any of me to begin with. You know,
Do you think that is what is needed for people to be in a healthy relationship?
but to love
To love
themselves,
themselves
absolutely.
before investing in a relationship?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Because some
Because
people will seek that validation from other people and their worth from other people. And when that breakup happens or things don't go well in that relationship, then they are more crushed, because that sense of self worth and all of that is based on how that person feels about them.
you absolutely have to love yourself first. Because you have to set the standard for what you expect and what you want, and give yourself boundary, everything. Just like, for instance, years ago when I didn't feel pretty and people would tell me I'm pretty, it doesn't matter how many times they said it.
Mm-hmm.
I heard it and I was appreciative that they thought that I was pretty, but that didn't make me feel any prettier.
Yeah.
Until I can look in the mirror and be like, I am beautiful. It doesn't matter how many times I hear it. It's like, oh, that feels nice to hear it. But when I look in the mirror, I don't see what they see. You
That's
have
a
to
good point.
pour into yourself until you can see the things that you want to see. That you're happy. You like the way your body looks. You like the way your mind is. You're emotionally stable. Everything. It doesn't matter how many times you hear it.
Yeah.
If you can't look at yourself and feel those things, it's not going to matter. You're never going to be fulfilled. That boyfriend that you want to make you feel pretty, he tells you you're beautiful every day, it's not going to be enough. Because if he skips one day or one moment, now you're back to feel, am I ugly, but you don't think I'm pretty now? You didn't tell.
And then if there's a breakup, and then there's that where you feel, empty and, not loved. And
Right.
So in your journey over these off and on years of this relationship, you've gotten to know yourself better and you've learned to love yourself. So tell us a little bit about that. And I think we have about 5 minutes.
Okay.
We'll need to wrap up.
So I think I got so tired of not knowing who I was. That's part of what put me in my depression a few years ago, is because I was realizing that I'm just existing. Like, what am I here for? I'm just doing the same things, getting the same results.
Yeah.
What now? And then after having a baby, I'm just like, what? Like, now I have this other human that I have to pour into, but I can barely pour into myself. I was going nuts. I felt like I was going crazy in my head, and I got tired of that. So I'm like, all right, therapy it is. So I go to therapy and start realizing, unpacking all this stuff that's wrong. And it's like, it's helping, but at the same time, it's like I realize that as I'm helping myself, I'm still kind of digging deeper, if that makes sense, because I'm pulling up stuff that is wrong or stuff that I need to work on.
Yeah.
So it definitely got messier before it started coming together. But it's definitely worth it for sure. And then adding God in the mix just skyrocketed it for me, you know.
I think that's why, a lot of people are hesitant about coming into therapy because they don't want to dredge up stuff. They don't want to get to like the root of their problem, and the idea of having to work on some things like that can be really like scary or uncomfortable, but you have to go through it to get through it, and just even today, you being able to speak freely about, what you've done in the past and how you've had to, well, and first of all, it aided you, and you've had to come clean about that, and, hope for that forgiveness, and you were able to get that, and then to be able to forgive yourself and to learn from that whole experience so that you can be a different person, because that person was so different than who you are today.
Crazy
and
different.
that's how we learn and grow, is by our experiences and the mistakes that we make. And so, like, it's not easy to admit certain things to oneself, let alone in a therapy session or, to the world. And yet it can be very humbling, because it's like, okay, this is part of my story, my journey, like you said, your testimony, and all of this has helped strengthen your relationship with you, yourself, your daughter, and God. And that's what's really important.
What I've realized, and anyone who knows me, I'm a huge advocate for therapy. I think everyone can benefit from it if you're willing to do the work. But what I say about it also is that it's like deep cleaning your bedroom. When your bedroom's a hot mess, it's gonna get messier before it gets clean, but when it's clean, you're like, I feel so much better.
I love that analogy.
It's the same exact thing. It's gonna be hard when you start unpacking things.
Yeah, like, what do I do with this? Where do I put that?
things that you knew about, and then things come up that you didn't even know. It gets
I didn't know
messy
that
at
was in
first,
there.
right? But then when you start
Yeah.
doing the cleaning and putting stuff away, and when it's done, you feel so much better. Or before it's even done, when you start to see
As you see the progress.
it feels so much better. It's the same thing with therapy.
I think in all the years that I've been doing this, that is probably the best analogy I've ever heard, honestly. So if you don't mind, I'm going to borrow
Oh
that.
yeah, sure,
Share that with other
use
people.
it,
Because that, I think people can relate to that
Mhm.
so much, and that's absolutely what it is. So
yeah.
that was good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right.
You're welcome.
So I know that, in a session's time, we're not going to get through, the entirety of the relationship,
Mhm.
but we can continue this process as understanding what that relationship was like and
Mhm.
how you got through it, and just start, like you said, taking some of this stuff out and just doing, putting it out here, and then, okay, now what do we do with it?
Right.
And then working through that. So yeah, we can continue to do that moving
Okay.
forward. And I'm so happy that, God spoke to you and gave you this, epiphany, and you've already had some of that knowledge. You just have to trust in it.
Yeah, there
So,
it is.
Yeah.
There it is.
So anything we didn't get to today, we can always, table for next session.
Okay.